Welcome to another episode of Chad Sports Talk. You know my name's Chad. Take a dive of sports. And welcome to the recap video of Week 12. That's right, the Thanksgiving holiday weekend is now complete. A full slate of games is already in the books. There were definitely some interesting matchups. Some games definitely people didn't saw coming. A few that I did see coming. I made some boathead choices because I wasn't paying attention. But could I do better than what I did last week, which was a very terrible week for me? So before I dive into all that nonsense, if you could, go ahead and hit that thumbs up for me, especially like the content provider. It really pleases you two guys. Really promotes the channel out. You can also subscribe. Love you guys review my work. I love the fact that you're all doing that. Not many of you subscribe. And I see a lot of you guys are returning. It doesn't cost you anything. It helps me provide more entertainment value for you. Last week, that was horrible. I went 6-8. Statistically, one of my worst weeks, right on par with week 3. When I went 7-9. And my best week so far in the NFL season has been week number 5, when I went 11-5. No mas. Last week, I actually did extremely well. I went 12-4. That's right. I won 12 of these games, and I called for an upset. So, let's just go ahead and dive into my very lovely Thanksgiving weekend slate of games. By just let you know, I won all 3 of those. I also won in the cooking department because I didn't have to cook. I let my oldest and her fiance handle that one extremely well. Enjoyed it quite a bit. And let's just dive into that first game of the docket as you're getting, finishing up those tidbits of your Thanksgiving dinner. The Buffalo visiting the Lions. Now, I said Detroit was going to make this a game. It's just how Detroit's built. They have a very young defense that's very opportunistic. The offense has a veteran quarterback leading them, and they have some young talent there. There's just some nuances between the games. Is like sometimes the offense does really well and the defense falls apart. Sometimes the defense is performing very well, but the offense falls apart. So they never very often seem to be in the same playing field, basically. We try to come back and it's too late, or they're so far gone it doesn't really matter, but they make it interesting at the end, or they just have a complete defensive collapse. In this particular instance, this was a good matchup all around. It was more a Detroit kind of controlling the factors of the game early, really kind of containing Josh Allen's effectiveness. Josh Allen's still throwing interceptions in the red zone, which tends to be his Achilles heel right now. They lost Von Miller, who got injured during this game, so their defense is lacking that leadership that they're so desperately wanted to make that Super Bowl run. And they barely had the lead at the half, 17-14. They got a safety in the third quarter. I mean, very rarely do you see that one happening, but them getting that one. Trying to make a comeback in the fourth, but Buffalo was able to just eke out the victory with a 28-25 victory, winning their second game in Ford Field in 5 days to get them 6-3. And so we head down to the Big D, where Dallas was playing host to the Giants in a key NFC East showdown between these two. And early on, it was a little dicey. The Giants' defense was kind of containing Dallas a little bit. The offense wasn't as sharp for the Giants as well, so they weren't putting up the points that they should be putting up, which you can't do. If you allow the opportunity for Dallas playmakers to make those plays, they will hurt you. CeeDee Lamb had over 100 yards receiving. Zeke almost had 100 yards rushing. You cannot allow these guys to put up the yardage because they will find end zone eventually. Dak was able to throw two TDs. Zeke found the end zone one time. And it was 13-7 Giants lead at the half. But after that, it was all Dallas as they ended up holding on to beating the Giants 28-20 to really put the pressure on the Eagles for the number 1 team in the East. and pretty much solidifying Dallas' position as a postseason team and a possible threat. But we all know Dallas's playoff history. And then, as you're pretty much complete with your dinner, now you're having your pumpkin pie, you're sitting in front of the TV, you need to watch the Patriots head into Minnesota. Minnesota's looking to rebound after getting shellacked by Dallas the previous week. New England had to be the next victim that the Vikings were going to raid on. It wasn't much of the case in the beginning because New England was making the game with this. And New England's just one of these teams that, like Detroit, very good. New England has had more opportunities to have more victories than Detroit, but I think they're almost identical in terms of where they are standing. Now, with this aspect, it was a tied at half, 16-all. I mean, who saw that one, Kevin? New England's defense shut down the running attack by the Vikings, which took out one of the heads. Kirk Cousins wasn't really much of a factor either, or neither was Mac Jones. You know, he had over 380 yards passing, but he kind of made some costly mistakes as well. And Minnesota's just one of his teams you can't do that against. Justin Jefferson, almost 140 yards receiving. He's a dynamic factor with this one. It was a one-sided fourth quarter that pretty much iced this game as Minnesota battled back, beat New England 33-26 to go 9-2 in the season, and right behind Philadelphia for the number one team in the NFC. And Philly still holds the tiebreaker between them. And that completed my Thanksgiving sweep. Now we head to the Jets, where they play host to the Bears. Now with this one, I was a bonehead. I forgot that Justin Fields was out with a separated shoulder. I was focused on Zach Wilson being benched in favor of Mike White. Not Joe Flacco, but Mike White was giving the starting nod. And with the fact how the Jets' offense was kind of in disarray, I'm like, okay, this gives the Bears opportunity. But once again, also failed to take into account the amount of Bears on the shelf. It's not Elf on the shelf, it's the Bears on the shelf. There's been a depleted Chicago squad due to injuries. Trevor Siemian was named starter, and he's a game time decision because there's possibilities he got injured in practice. I mean, early on, it looked like a contest. I mean, it was only 17-10 at the half. But Mike White has now possibly created a QB controversy up there in New York, as he had over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns against a very injury-prone Bears defense. So take that as much as a grain of salt as you wish. The Bears are not the top of the line team. They're not the Bills. They're not the Dolphins. They're unfortunately right now they're at the bottom of the barrel, and I'm a Bears fan. I can say that. I can admit that. They're just garbage. But that's injuries and whatnot, and new coaching staff. La 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 la. I picked the Bears because, once again, I thought Fields was starting, not paying attention to the injury reports. The Jets just carpet bombed the Bears, beat them 31-10. It was not even close. Mike White making Jets fans happy, and the Jets look poised to make the playoffs as well. So we'll see how that one transpires. Then we have to Cleveland in First Energy Stadium as the Browns play host to the Buccaneers to see who's going to come out on top. And this one, once again, I went with Tom Brady because it's Tom Brady. But this Tampa Bay team is just so many different sides to them. It's like I said in my eye. It's hard to pinpoint which version of the Bucs you're going to get. You get the one that made that spectacular Super Bowl run. Of course, not the same team because it's missing a lot of pieces. Or you get the unit we all kind of expect them to be this year. we get more of the unit we kind of expected this year. They're going back to where Tom can't make simple throws. He's either overthrowing receivers. Either receivers are not running the routes properly, or he's just gunning it too far. Other errant throws, like too short. It's just a lot of these really silly mistakes that you don't expect Tom Brady to do, and it looks like he is starting to give up on the game itself. Not saying he is, but just the way the mannerism is, he's just not happy right now. It's Tom Brady. He always seems to find ways, but losing Worth, umpire, totally botched his name for the season because of injury. And offensive line, they cannot afford any more losses because once Tom Brady gets rattled and rushed, his roles will continue. And Cleveland's just one of these teams you just can't really show any weakness because Myles Garrett will exploit it. It's not a really flashy team defensively. Offensively, they're consistent. Jacoby Brissett is a very reliable quarterback. I've said this many, many times. They really relied on the running attack of Chubb, who had over 100 yards rushing. I mean, it was 10-10 at the half, and it was a fourth quarter touchdown, which tied the game at 17, sending this game to overtime. In overtime, it was just tick, 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 tick. The clock was just going. Teams couldn't find ways to get in the end zone or even set up for a game-winning field goal. It was just, could we get a second tie this year? Brissett threw a bomb to Amari Cooper, putting the Browns first and goal, pretty much within the 5-yard line, I believe. And Chubb was able to punch it in for the touchdown. That was at Cleveland upends Tampa Bay, 23-17. Giving them their fourth win of the season, giving me my second loss of the week. Then we head down to Nashville for a last year's divisional round rematch between the Bengals and the Titans. And this one, I was going with the Titans because they're the home team. I was like, okay, this is going to be it. There's injuries on the Bengals offense. Chase wasn't there. Mixon was out for concussion protocol. So they're missing two key pieces on that offense. And I was like, okay, I'll give this one Tennessee. Joe Burrow's like, I don't need those two. I have T. Higgins and Perrine to step up and take over those roles if need be, and he utilized them immensely. T. Higgins had over 100 yards receiving and a touchdown. Perrine found him played dirt himself. The defense of the Bengals was just mauling the Bengals all over. Or excuse me, the Bengals defense was mauling the Titans all over the place. Derrick Henry wasn't really much of a factor. He did have this nice screen pass. He started running. He broke free. He was going to score the touchdown. The ball got punched out. If Taylor wasn't trailing, or if the Titan wasn't trailing the play and jumped on the loose ball in the end zone to score the touchdown, that would have been a huge factor in this whole game because Tennessee had no offense to think of. They couldn't get anything going. And if it wasn't for a penalty against the Titans, Cincinnati set up for a field goal to put them up 7 points. Kick was good, but there's a flag on the play. Unfortunately, one of the Bengals defenders decided to push over the long snapper, and the long snapper is one of these players that are protected because of the precarious position they have to be in. Because they're not looking up when they snap the ball, they're looking in between their legs and then, making sure they get it to the holder or punter depending on the formation. So they're protected, so you can't really just kind of knock them all off their feet. You have to wait till they stand, get in up position. That didn't happen. They kind of bowled them over, got the flag. That was it. Cincinnati was able to hold on, beat Tennessee 20-16 to look like they might come out of the NFC North once again. Or excuse me, AFC North. Boy, I'm getting my conferences mixed up. and giving me loss number 3. So as you see, once we start on the Sunday early games, I was like, great, here we go again. Then we go to Miami, and we're the Dolphins playing host to the Texans, and I'm not going to spend much time to it. I didn't spend much time to it in my preview. I said it's going to be Miami all day long. They double up the Texans 30-15. They scored all 30 points in the first half. Tua Tagovailoa almost had 300 yards passing. Tyreek Hill only had 85 yards. I mean, it was a thing. And Vernon McKinley ended up getting got his first interception, which pretty much iced the game for the Dolphins, and they continue to roll. Then we head over to Washington as they play host to the Falcons, and this is one of these games that I saw both these teams kind of on the same level. I know Mariota's the veteran quarterback, but Heineke, no slouch either. Atlanta had some issues with some of their offensive players being out. Washington pretty much has somewhat no-name players. But both are finding ways to make themselves in games. Unfortunately, Atlanta's defense has been letting them down, much like Detroit's. Cough up leads, or Baltimore's even. Cough up leads late in the game and then losing. And it was just a slow, methodical game. Commanders, like I said, have found life. They are rattling, getting behind Heineke and Ron Rivera, and just believing in themselves as Washington is starting to look like a playoff team. It was dicey early. They kept going ball for blow with the Falcons, which I figured they would, just because how both these teams are really kind of set up. It was towards the end that they got go-ahead field goal in the fourth. Kendall Fuller got a interception that pretty much sealed the deal for the Commanders, and they held on, beat Atlanta 19-13. Then we head down to Carolina, where the Panthers were playing host to the Broncos, and with this one, these are two franchises that are just in a hot mess. Denver has spent all this money, traded assets to get Russell Wilson. He has not lived up to the hype, period. He's definitely one of these individuals that believes things his excrement don't stink. Even his defense is starting to draw on him to do his dang job. And he didn't at all. I mean, this offense was inept. They only had 2 scoring drives. 2. Like I said, Carolina is not a beacon of hope whatsoever. Sam Darnold made his return from injury as the starting quarterback. And once again, so we'll see how many quarterbacks Carolina Panthers can use during a season. This is just a bad team all around. Spectacular passing performance by Sam Darnold, to say the least. Foreman had over 100 yards on the ground for the Panthers, where they kind of helped out. As Carolina rolled over Denver 23-10, continued the Denver's woes, and continued to give Seattle a high first-round draft pick. We're going to head down to Jacksonville, where the Jaguars playing host to Baltimore. But the Jaguars were playing host to the Ravens. I picked the Jaguars to win because I look at Trevor Lawrence. He is starting to blossom to the quarterback everyone expected him to be when he joined. Then he thought Urban Meyer was going to be his guiding factor, but Urban Meyer is a college football coach and really handsy with the women. So he needs someone that's a little bit more going to tune to his ability and kind of help build a quarterback. Insert Doug Peterson, who did a great job of Carson Wentz up there in Philadelphia until the wheels just kind of fell off, especially get rid of Nick Foles. He didn't have the safety net. But he's starting to build something there. They got some young talent on the offense, on the young talent on the defense. The team is starting to generate themselves. They're not going to make a playoff run this year, but I have a feeling they might be a playoff team next year if they can get the right pieces to kind of plug in some holes and they continue this drive. Because this year they've made some drives in the fourth quarter to try to win games, and they've come up short. In the fourth quarter, Baltimore had this great drive and ended up scoring a touchdown to take the lead. And they forced Jacksonville to 4 and outs and punt it. And then Baltimore's driving again. Fumbled. I mean, deep in their territory. Give Jacksonville excellent field position to get a touchdown. Once again, Trevor Lawrence, over 300 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. He ended up throwing a touchdown to 27-26. And then Doug Peterson went, you know what, screw it. We're not going for the tie. We're going for the win. If we don't make it, we don't make it. It doesn't matter. We have 30 wins in the season. They went out there and went for a 2-point conversion. And Marvin Jones caught the 2-point conversion, giving the Jaguars a 28-27 victory over Baltimore. And this is not on Lamar. The defense let them down again. This has been a recurring thing in Baltimore. The defense falls apart in the fourth quarter, cough up leads. Yeah, this one is not on Lamar. This is the defense not holding up their end of the bargain. Then we head to the desert out there in Glendale, home of the Arizona Cardinals, to play host to the Chargers. And this one I said, okay, this is going to be the Chargers. Thought it'd be a lot wider margin of victory, and not the way it went down. Arizona's not going away. Kyler Murray was back as the starting quarterback. They had a 17-14 halftime lead. They were doing their parts to kind of get things going. They had a 24-17 victory, or lead, should I say, heading into the fourth quarter. Justin Herbert, ended up having 3 total touchdowns all together. They orchestrated a drive, got a touchdown once again. They tie it. Kick the extra point. They tie it. They also went for 2. The Chargers had to get some spark to get them back on the mindset that they can win and get into the playoffs. And it's what it is. They scored on their 2-point conversion, winning their game 25-24 to kind of keep them hanging around in that playoff contention out there in the AFC, which is starting to separate a little bit between who's really in, who is fighting to get in, and who has no chance. But, giving me another key victory. And then we head up to Seattle, where the Seahawks playing host to the Raiders. And both these teams are looking good last week. Geno Smith under Pete Carroll has just revitalized his career. He has been phenomenal up in that role. I mean, especially when you got two running backs you can count on, 2 receivers you can count on. It makes the offense work more efficiently that way. And the defense is starting to find some groove and some swagger of the old Legion of Boom kind of aspects. And the Raiders have been one of these teams that just hasn't performed the way they should if you look at them on paper. I guess you consider them a paper tiger, because on paper they should be dominating everyone and not have 3 wins. Their defense, I think, is either let them down. Their offense is not gelling at the right times. But recently, Derek Carr and Devontae Adams have revitalized their bromance from Fresno State. They've been connecting a lot to get touchdowns and whatnot. And it was just one of these games that just kind of went back and forth between the two. I mean, it was 20-17.5 in favor of Seattle. And it ended up going to be 34-34 at the end of regulation. So once again, we're heading into overtime. It's a common theme this week, it seems like. Either you go for 2 points for the win, or you're heading to overtime. And Josh Jacobs, was performing quite well in terms of his aspect as a running back. He had almost 230 yards and 2 touchdowns. 86 yards and a touchdown came in overtime. He broke an 86-yard touchdown for a game-winning touchdown as he ran it off. Normally you have a walk-off home run. Well, you ran off a winning touchdown. As that it is. Getting him a fourth loss, went into Seattle, got their fourth win. And that was kind of weird. And beat the Seahawks 40-34. Then we have to the Plains and Arrowheads. The Kansas City Chiefs are playing host to a banged-up LA Rams. Stafford's out. Cubs out. Kind of find out that Sam Darnold is out. He got injured. Jalen Ramsey mentally is out because he's still trying to find Kelsey. This was just a bad game for the Rams. They just couldn't do anything. The defense was hanging tight with the Chiefs. They were kind of giving Chiefs some issues early on. Mahomes still had over 300 yards passing, only 1 touchdown, but of course I think everyone knows who that touchdown went to. He got Kelsey in this play, and he was just making moves that it looked like we were playing Madden. And Ramsey is still trying to find Kelsey after that play. I mean, it was just bad. He was just so lost. Scoring 1 of his touchdowns. Pacquiao ended up getting a touchdown as well. Kansas City was just a slow, methodical drives. Ate up time. Gave what the defense gave them. He didn't. Mahomes didn't try to force too much. Kansas City ended up holding on, winning 26-10. They continue their march to be the number 1 team in the AFC right now. Then we have to Santa Clara with the 49ers playing host to the Saints, and I thought this was going to be a blowout away for the 49ers. Not so much. The Saints defense kind of made this a bit of a game. I'll give credit to the 49ers defense, though. They stepped up and they handled business on their end. The Saints defense tried to do their point of bend don't break. The touchdown pass to Jennings was actually a tip ball that got to him, as the 49ers offense kind of looked out of sync a little bit, but they were able to muster enough once again to continue winning, shutting out the Saints 13-0. Looked like a really bad lopsided baseball game. It was a low, and it seems to be the theme of the 49ers this year. They get really high-scoring baseball games and on their resume this year. But this one actually won, beating the Saints, moving to 7-4, and definitely looking at taking that West crown. Then we head over to Philadelphia as the Packers came to town, take on the Eagles. And this is one of these games I think the Eagles was looking to, and Jalen Hurts was looking to make a marquee victory for him. Green Bay was gunning with them right in the early going. I mean, it was only 27-20 at half, but Rodgers had to go out. You got to think he's already playing with a broken thumb. He said he had part of a broken rib, just bruised rib, something. You can tell he was not himself. When you get hit, or when he throws, you can tell he is in pain. He's wincing in pain. He's bending over. He can't get full motion of his arm and his body to make those accurate throws, those bombs he likes to throw, and shred a defense. And 34-23 into the fourth. I mean, that's when I think they finally decided to just go in the back. I'm going to give it to Love. I mean, this is the part of the game. I think we got a quarter left. But either the defense wasn't, taken less seriously and they're playing more deep prevent, but Love was just picking them apart. He ended up getting a touchdown in the air, and then made another drive where he ended up getting a field goal. So he drove for 10 points. But it was just too much. Philadelphia ended up winning 40-33 to 10-1. I don't know if there's anything that the You really stop this Eagles team, except for opposing team's running attack, because it was another. They can't stop the run. They cannot stop the run. And that's going to be the Achilles heel heading into the playoffs, because there's a few teams out there that have some quality running backs, including Dallas, San Francisco, Minnesota, even Kansas City. So they definitely got some work ahead of them. But then it leads us to Monday night, and one of these weird games once again. You have two lowly teams sitting at the bottom. The Steelers came into Indianapolis to take on the Colts. It was not pretty from the get-go. Pittsburgh went up 16-3 at half. Indianapolis came back in the third quarter. I mean, rattled off a couple good touchdowns. Matt Ryan threw for one, and Jonathan Taylor finally found the end zone. Again, within some striking distance, but it was just too much Pittsburgh. They got up 24-17 in the fourth. Indianapolis was driving, pretty much a two-minute offense. There's one play where they kind of ran it and then they didn't call a timeout. They're like, okay, no worries. But they burned 30 seconds because they had no hurry up in them. And then Matt Ryan went up running. Because he gave himself up, he was like two yards shy of the first down. And just barely, they didn't call timeout then. I mean, and then Saturday, who always goes after head coaches who fail to call timeouts in these situations. Acting like those damn head coaches who always call timeouts in those situations is like, I had enough time. I mean, we had those timeouts in the pocket. I didn't just want to keep them there. We keep the defense on the field. We had them on their heels, and just I thought we could execute it. I wasn't worried about it. Yeah, you need to burn those timeouts. You don't have a young stud of a quarterback that could probably make those runs and be, come back up and make the play the next go around. Matt Ryan's not built like that. And it's just one of those situations. I think if I was a coach, I probably would have called it right after his run to kind of get a better measurement or a better placement of the ball. Maybe have, upstairs look at it a little bit longer to kind of see, okay, is this the right spot to put it? So, that way you can delve up, okay, here's play one, here's play two. This is what we're going to do. And they didn't do that. It is what it is. Saturday's not winning two as a head coach. Indianapolis lost again. This franchise right now is just, this team right now is just not performing the way a lot of people expect it, including this guy. I expected them to be just running amok in the South, and they're not. Pittsburgh ended up winning 24-17 to give them their fourth win of the season. And that is it. That's my review. I actually went 12-4, so I'm actually quite pleased with myself in terms of that aspect, and kind of look forward to the rest of the season and the rest of the weeks coming up, because it should be really fun and exciting. Can a team or a division get all four teams into the playoffs? That hasn't happened yet. I called for it last year, and that never happened with the NFC West, because Seattle kind of fell apart. Well, we have a losing team get into the playoffs as the divisional champions. I think we really need to look at that aspect again, but that's just me making silly decisions. Yeah, we'll kind of see how things kind of go. Teams are getting closer right now. Kansas City and Philadelphia are setting top two teams in the league. Are they destined to face off in the Super Bowl? My Super Bowl preview, my Super Bowl picks in my preview video, yes, go ahead and say that correctly, still in. That's Buffalo and San Francisco. We'll see what happens. There's a lot of good teams right now, and a lot of teams that could start playing well, but only time will tell. But hey, just let me know down below which game surprised you the most. Did the Cleveland game kind of come out of nowhere on you? Are you more surprised by Jacksonville's win? Is your team still in the hunt for the playoffs? I think mine, you might as well just roll right off. So let me know down below. Once again, while you're there, make sure you hit that thumbs up. You can share this video with your friends and family. It will help promote the channel out. Once you subscribe and hit the bell notification, make sure you turn on notifications for the next time I post any more content on my channel. And I will see you next time on Chat Sports Talk.